Steve, so I guess as the first user of Amos Delta, what have you found to be the sort of most redeeming features?
I think initially what switched me on to it was the embryonic version, which was, as you know, a clunky old spreadsheet, and having talked through the processes with your good self there and understanding the algorithms that were built into that program. It was then when the product itself was released, it was very intuitive to be able to migrate from the old one to the new one. Although it looked different, the core functionality was obviously the same. And one of its redeeming features is obviously the reporting functionality that you get as standard out of the box, which simplifies the whole job in terms of not having to export back into Excel to be able to create all the charts and graphs that management want, because it's actually, as you know yourself, part of the core functionality of the product. So that's one of the key things for me. The second thing is obviously its speed in processing. On the clunky spreadsheet, it was processing about 9,000 items at a time. Currently on site 1, I'm processing 27,000 items, and on site 2, 13,000 items, and it takes a fraction of the time to be able to process that and get the data out. And the beautiful thing about it is you having written the templates in the background to be able to call in any data, then pull up any layouts that you've already created. You don't have to go and reinvent the wheel each time. And what I've found is for multi-sites that having written it once, you don't have to write it again, because you can then use that functionality across all 3 sites. So all in all, a very well-rounded piece of software.
Good. So you think it's in sort of its design concept, it had the planner in mind?
Very much so. And a case in point, an example yesterday was that I found that the overage had gone up from last month to this month, and I was very quickly able to get to the offending part numbers and go and speak to the director of operations to find out why he had failed to ship what he was promised to ship that has now ended up in my inventory. As it turns out, because the organisation has just had a recent name change, not all the release certification for export was in place at the time, so we were unable to ship. So that's the kind of speed of reaction that you can get that potentially you can't get from sort of existing ERP systems very easily.
So how do you think you might have had to deal with that if you hadn't got the software?
In that case in point, I would have had to interrogate the inbound stores transactions for this month over last month, identify the differences, and then go to investigate. But obviously interrogating 27,000 parts for this month and 27,000 parts for last month, and then trying to meld the two together to identify the differences again is a very long-winded way of getting to the same answer that you can get to with Amos Delta in 5 minutes.
Okay, that's good. And how do you think it's helped you with the pressures that you get on the sort of meeting inventory targets?
Good question. We've come from a situation where the production shortages were the word of the day. I can't build it, I haven't got me bits, haven't got me bits, haven't got me bits. We've swung that pendulum from a shortage situation, and perhaps unfortunately it's gone a bit too far the other direction, but with Amos Delta we're now actually able to trim back the system parameters to achieve the financial inventory target set not only by our FD but also by corporate as well for the group. And being responsible for inventory now on 3 sites, this is effectively the only piece of armoury, the tool I've got in my armoury as it were, to be able to process that information quickly and effectively and feedback management reports on progress and targets as well.
If you had to explain very quickly what the benefit of this was to someone else, say for example you got three floors on a lift, what is it that you would be saying to these users?
Essentially, I'd be saying that I have this tool that works on several levels that enables me to understand and manage inventory on 2 main levels, one of which is obviously at the macro level, and understanding the dynamics of the business at that level, and also at the detail level, down to part number and understanding what's going on at the part number level. the tool gives me then the ability to understand and analyse data depending upon any number of scenarios that you can dream up, to come up with and develop the plan, an inventory plan that's coherent and that is easy to present back to the management team in terms of understanding the targets that they have set, and also understanding the steps down the road on how I'm going to get them to that target, and obviously the road that causes least pain to the business in terms of processing the output from MRP. Notwithstanding that, I mean, as I said to you before, Jeff, it's a little surprising that people haven't built this into ERP systems, because to me it seems part of the key core functionality that should be there that currently isn't.
And I think, it's, it just sits on my analogy is that, we've got some very nice looking modern day ERP systems, which is sort of, in my view, the BMW, but we're still actually running them on very old fashioned technology. So that's like putting old engines into new cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the new ERP systems that we're planning to integrate, the thought process is now how can we automate more the integration of Amish Delta into that system, which would then negate the fact of having to extract data, then process it, then feed it back. If that could be automated, and I know with some of the modern day ERP systems, some of that methodology is in the background, so that's something at this next implementation that sure I'll be looking to explore to make my life easier and easier.